Mega Feraligatr is, in my opinion, the best of the ZA starters' new Mega Evolutions. It becomes a Dragon type when it Mega Evolves, and a Water Dragon typing is amazing for defensiveness, making Feraligatr a huge threat in ZA rank battles. So let's talk about how to use this Pokemon, and be sure to like and sub for more ZA content. So looking at Mega Feraligatr stats, this thing gets kind of nuts. I'm not going to lie to you. So first and foremost, it gains 55 attack points. That's crazy. So this takes it up to 160 base attack. Then it also gains 25 defensive points, which is huge, making this even more bulky. For whatever reason, they decided to give it 10 special attack, bringing it up from 79 to 89. I don't really know why this was necessary, but they did. So you can do that. I wouldn't recommend it, but you can. So also, it got 10 special defensive points, bringing it up to 93 from 83. Pretty nice. All around, this thing gets quite a bit more bulky, and that is absolutely huge. Very solid defensive typing when it gains that dragon typing as well. That's super solid for Feraligatr. So Water Dragon is like one of the best defensive typings in competitive Pokemon. So it's just so nice that this Pokemon kind of got a little bit of an edge that it didn't have before, making this so much better than it was previously. So Mega Feraligatr, how are we using this Pokemon, right? It's very, very good. Let me just start there. It is very good. So you're just maxing the attack. You're maxing the HP out, and you're going to give it Adamant. And then throw the last 4 in special defense. This is the easiest way to build this Pokemon, and you'll have a ton of success with it, trust me. Okay, so like I said earlier, that Dragon typing is so big for this Pokemon. Absolutely fantastic. The first thing I would recommend is Waterfall. This is just such a good move. You can dash into combat. You hit everything in your line of sight. It's just, it's so good. It's very, very good. Very good on Gyarados. It's very good on Feraligatr. Definitely would be my recommendation. Next, we're going to talk about that Dragon coverage. Now, unfortunately, I don't think this thing gets access to Dragon Rush, which sucks. Dragon Rush is such a good move. Very disappointing that we don't get access to that. So what I would recommend is either Dragon Claw, to just have solid Dragon Stab, or alternatively, you could run Outrage. That's definitely an option for you. Outrage, very good. Does a ton of damage. It will confuse you after, so you do have to worry about missing some attacks after the fact. But with the amount of damage that you can put off, it's kind of worth the risk. So those are your options. If you don't want the confusion, run Dragon Claw. If you don't care about the confusion, run Outrage. You could save Outrage for your last stand kind of deal, where like you're low on HP, I'm gonna do a ton of damage to whatever's coming at me. That's kind of what you could use Outrage for. Now, I will say that you also want to probably run Ice Fang on this thing, just because of the amount of dragons that are weak to ice in this format. Looking at Garchomp, looking at Dragonite, looking at Salamence. There are just a ton of Pokemon, and even the grass types that are coming at you that are going to try and do some damage, right? Ice Fang, just good coverage for Feraligatr when it's not in its Mega form. So I'd highly recommend that as a move for this particular Pokemon. It's gonna help you out a ton as far as coverage goes. And the final move that I would recommend, I don't think you need to set up. This attack stat's crazy, so I don't think you need Swords Dance. I don't think you need anything like that. Just run Aqua Jet. Priority move. It's very fast. You can clean up KOs with this. You get stab on it. Very, very good. So this is the set that I think you need to be running. I think it's just, and again, this is interchangeable with Dragon Claw. But overall, I think this is just the best set for Mega Feraligatr. You're just going to have the most success here. And you're just going to go in and you're going to take KOs. It's all you're going to do. Now, what do we do with normal Feraligatr? Because we like to talk about the base form. I don't think this Pokemon's terrible. I don't think it's as good as Mega Feraligatr, right? So you're going to do pretty much the same thing here as far as EV spread goes. You're going to do that. Probably run this thing with like a Life Orb. And you're going to do pretty much the same set. Like, you don't have to really think too hard about this. It's pretty much going to be the same set. Dragon Claw, you can run Ice Fang again. And you can run Aqua Jet. Now, alternatively, because you're running all moves like this, you could drop the Life Orb entirely and run Assault Vest and have a little more bulk. Maybe help you live a hit from like a Thunderbolt or something, or you know, like a Leaf Storm, a Giga Drain, whatever, you know, from grass type users. So the Assault Vest is definitely an option as well if you don't want to run the Life Orb. Life Orb's really good though. So those are the two ways that I would probably recommend playing Feraligatr. I definitely, like I said, don't think this is as good as running Mega Feraligatr. I think Mega Feraligatr just is by far and away better because of that defensive typing. But this is still a usable Pokemon with a lot of good options as far as coverage goes and dealing with threats in the format. So definitely a solid grab for a water type if you're in need of one. But what teammates do we want with Mega Feraligatr? That's the question that needs answered, right? How are we going to run this as a unit in this game? Now, so how I want to run this and how I plan to run this is with these two Pokemon. So first up is Excadrill. I think Excadrill is very good. I think it's very strong. And I'm running this with a Focus Sash. And I'm running this with Earthquake, Rock Slide. There's two options here. You can run Metal Claw or you can run Iron Head. It's up to you. Metal Claw gives you that ability to get that attack stat up, so it's up to you. Has a shorter cooldown as well. And then the final move is kind of up to you. There's a couple ways you could go about doing the final move. So you could Swords Dance to give yourself even more, and you're going to max that HP, you're going to max that attack, and you're going to go for Adamant. Now, some people, again, are going to say, oh, why don't you want the speed? You get the cooldown reduction. I don't like speed in this game. I think speed is a useless stat in this game because, yes, you can get the shorter cooldown, but if your Pokemon's just dead, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you have shorter cooldowns if your Pokemon just dies, right? That's the ultimate thing. So, for me personally, just max the HP. Max the HP. That's my personal preference as far as any sort of EV training in this game goes. So you could do this, or you could just go all attacking moves and go with like Drill Run or Dig or something that gets this off the field, right? Dig is really solid because you go underground and you avoid damage for a second and you lock onto the target. That could be really solid as well. So Dig or Drill Run would be my recommendation for your final move if you wanted to do 4 attacks on this Pokemon. But again, you can run something like Swords Dance or something to kind of set up early and do a ton of damage. The choice is really up to you. But yeah, this is how you go about playing Excadrill. And I think this is really solid because looking at Feraligatr, we do gain that Dragon typing when we're Mega Evolved. So Excadrill can come in and it eats the hit from Fairy type attacks that are super effective. It eats the hits from Dragon types that are super effective. That's really nice. This is weak to water types. You can swap Feraligatr into water type attacks for Excadrill. So there's a lot of real solid benefits between these two Pokemon that are just really good. And the last Pokemon that I would run with these is Gardevoir. Really solid. You could run like Life Orb, and you could do Moonblast. You could do Psychic, and you could do, there's a couple options. You could do like Mystical Fire, you could do Magical Leaf, you can do Thunderbolt. There's a handful of options that are really solid. I think honestly, for this team, a big threat to Feraligatr is going to be Ice types with Freeze Dry. So having extra coverage for that could be really good. So I would say Mystical Fire would actually be pretty solid here. Again, max that HP, max the special attack, put the 4 in defense, go for Modest. And you can, in the last slot here, run like Calm Mind. Set up your Gardevoir, start doing big damage. This is going to be really annoying for people to deal with. I think this is a solid way. Now, obviously, you could go for another thing like Clefairy. You could go Clefable, excuse me. You could do Screens. Light Screen with, and this would get like a Fairy Feather with Reflect. And you could do Moonblast and Draining Kiss. And just have this thing be an annoying wall. Do this, and you could go more defensive if you want to. I don't really care to, personally. I don't think it's worth it. But yeah, do something like this with this, or you could even go for a little bit less of the supporty Clefable and go for like this thing gets like a ton of coverage moves. So you could do something like this. You could do Ice Beam or Flamethrower. Do this with this, and then do like Expert Belt. This is another solid option. So yeah, basically Feraligatr with a Steel type and a Fairy type, do that Fantasy Core is really, really good. But also you could do just a standard Fire, Water, Grass Core as well for this Pokemon. Personally, I think the Fantasy Core is better for Mega Feraligatr, but there's definitely merit to the Fire, Water, Grass Core. So looking at the Fire, Water, Grass Pokemon available, again, I really like Meganium. I think Meganium is incredibly solid simply because of its ability to set screens and just be super annoying. So I've been running it kind of like this lately as a more supportive option. Dazzling Gleam with Rocky Helmet. And then you're going to max the HP, max the special attack, and then do that with Modest. In this, basically, you set the screens up. You maybe go for a Giga Drain and a Dazzling Gleam. You let something hit you, do some chip with that Rocky Helmet, maybe secure a KO, and then you transfer the screens to whatever other Pokemon you have on your team. That has been incredibly solid for using Meganium as a support Pokemon. That's how I played it with Emboar, Mega Emboar, and it was so good. So I really like that as a combo. And then we need a fire type. We already have a Pokemon that likes to get close and do a lot of like up close combat with Feraligatr. Meganium also has to get relatively close with Giga Drain and Dazzling Gleam. So I want something that could do a bit more like far away sniping kind of damage. As far as that goes, I would say like Charizard is a solid option. And I've been running my Charizards like this with Charcoal and going for max HP, max special attack with 4 in defense, and then go for Modest. And you're going to have Heat Wave, not Heat Crash, Heat Wave with your, you can run Air Slash or Hurricane. It's up to you. It doesn't matter. And I've been running Dragon Pulse on this with Flamethrower. So we're maximizing our fire type damage with the Charcoal, and then have these 2 other options just to kind of have some coverage. I really like Charizard. I think it's really solid. So this is a solid Fire, Water, Grass core, but you do have to be mindful that while you are not in Mega Feraligatr form, both Feraligatr and Charizard are going to be weak to the electric type attacks that are going to be sent your way, so you do need to be very mindful of that. Meganium is going to be your safest swap for that. Alternatively, you could run Delphox. Another Pokemon runs very similarly in the grand scheme of things to how you would run Charizard. With Heat Wave, you can run Psychic. You can either do Focus Blast, which I honestly think is pretty solid. Focus Blast and run like Nasty Plot. Run this with either like a Life Orb or a Focus Sash. Do this. There you go. And this is going to give you a lot of options as well. I think this is pretty solid. It runs very similarly to how you play Greninja, where you just get in, set up with Nasty Plot, and then go ahead and just start nuking stuff with these coverage moves. So that's another option as well for dealing with a fire type option for playing a Fire, Water, Grass core with Feraligatr. That would be my recommendation personally. I don't want another physical attacker. Like, if I look at, like, Talonflame, Talonflame is actually really good, and I think people are sleeping on Talonflame, simply because it doesn't have a Mega Evolution, but Talonflame is really, really solid. Again, you're probably running that with Focus Sash. The problem is that you already have 2 Pokemon that get very close to the combat, with these 2, with Feraligatr and Meganium. So Talonflame doesn't feel super good because it needs to follow that suit. It needs to get into the fight to do damage. So I don't really like Talonflame for that reason on this particular team. If I had something to here like Greninja and Meganium, Talonflame could be good. But I just don't like the fact that Talonflame has to get as close as the other 2. I want something that can sit back and pick off KOs. So I kind of like Charizard or Delphox in that regard. But yeah, there's a lot of really solid options that are kind of interchangeable for these Pokemon. That you could work into this team. Feraligatr, just with its typing, has a lot of options available to it for solid teammates. Again, looking at fantasy cores, like you could even get away with doing things like Metagross. You could do Assault Vest or Screens, Metagross, whatever you want to do. Metagross is really good here, again, for that fantasy core, and then you could swap Gardevoir in there, with these 2. Or you could do Clefable, you could do Sylveon. Like, just throw a fairy type in that last slot and just eat stuff up. I really like that. Sylveon is honestly a little awkward in this game because it does not get its ability Pixelate. And that's kind of a downside to Sylveon, where, like, normally Sylveon's super cool because you can run, like, Pixelate and Hyper Voice. And that's going to allow you to do big damage with this and turn this into a fairy type attack and even run, like, Hyper Beam. But because there's no abilities in this game, Sylveon loses, like, the one thing that makes it so cool. So that kind of like throws you off a bit as far as using Sylveon and doing just a ton of damage, right? So it's still good because you can run like Moonblast, you can run, what else does it get? Shadow Ball. Like, it gets some coverage moves, but I don't think it's as good as stuff like Clefable and Gardevoir in this game. So yeah, there's a lot of options for Feraligatr. Because of its typing, it just makes it so bulky and defensive, very solid for dealing with a ton of threats in the format. Very, very powerful physical attacker, really solid Pokemon all around. But that is going to do it for this video, guys. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. It helps me out, helps the video out, helps the channel out immensely. Let me know in the comments below what you're going to be using with your Mega Feraligatr in ZA rank battles. But until next time, peace.